Welcome to another edition of Driven to Lead. I'm your host, Wayne Brannon. In this program, we explore the real stories from key executives to find the leadership lessons that drove their success, whether in good times or bad. We got a great program for you today, so let's make it happen. We got a big treat today. We've got Jarod Kalfus, the president of Black Book, with us. Jarod, how you doing today?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's all good. Naples, Florida, sun's still shining, God's still on the throne, all good, can't complain. So, Jarod, really impressive background you have looking through your years in the automotive industry and in leadership roles. You were with Cars Direct, which is one of the largest online retailers, digital online retailers. And then you were with the world's largest rental car agency, Enterprise Rent-A-Cars, for a number of years, and then with the largest automotive remarketing company in the world. I mean, this is like a stair stepping from big to bigger to biggest. And now you're with Black Book, which has been an aggregator of data for the automotive industry for like almost 70 years.
Years.
And you've been with them 12 years. What was the spark that kind of led you to want to be in the car business and spend your whole life doing this kind of thing?
I wish I could tell you that when I grew up, Wayne, that I had this desire and I had this plan. It's almost that
Yeah.
accidental tourist, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I know many people, outside of either Detroit or went to Northwood University that had the idea of, I want to go in the car business, or if, maybe if your family owned a car dealer or something like that.
Right. Right.
Um, I had no idea. I had no idea. I graduated from college. I had school loans. This was back in the early 90s, and I was literally flipping through the newspaper because there was no, LinkedIn and Indeed and, monster.com and all those back in the day. And I
Right.
was looking for a job, and it said, management trainee, and it didn't even have the company. And it was, I think, 21 or $22,000. And I said, I got to pay these school loans back. We got to figure this out. And it ended up being Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And
Yeah.
I was going to say yes no matter what it was. They found enough in me to offer me a job, and kind of sold me on the opportunity to learn their program, and I fell in, and I just haven't I haven't left in just over 30 years.
Well, certainly, there are circumstances and situations in our life that kind of naturally lead us to the next step. But I think when we talked earlier, you said you're kind of an accidental success. I mean, I'm not buying that really, because nothing really happens accidentally. There's a lot of competition out there, a lot of really smart people, a lot of people who have good work ethic and work hard. But you obviously created some value along the way in these companies, and you've moved up consistently in terms of your leadership roles over time as well. Was there a defining moment when you realized that you're not just cranking out reports and or doing whatever you were doing in the early days, that like, oh my God, I became a leader, like now I have to lead people? Was
Yeah,
there a defining moment there, or was it something that you moved into consciously, or did that kind of happen as well?
I've always had the drive. I've always had the work ethic. I've always had the DNA to succeed. Um, I remember what I believe is the best compliment someone gave me early in my working career, and I still hold this as to the highest regard. This person told me that I was reliable, and I've taken that, and I try to teach that as a cornerstone, if you will, to everyone that works with me.
Mhm.
Is that's one of the best traits you can have, is that you execute and you deliver on your work. And the other thing is that everything is a reflection of you. Doesn't mean that you're going to succeed in everything. Failure is just another great opportunity to learn, but you do have to give it your all. You do have to
Mhm.
try. If you're going to fail fast, learn the lesson and keep going.
Yeah.
But it is a reflection of you. So give it
Yeah.
everything. Treat it like it's your own. Be an owner, and move on and learn.
I love that, be an owner. I had a lot of my colleagues were always talking about the difference between some people who would come into our company and they'd be renters. They were there for
Yeah.
themselves. They were there for a short time. They were looking to see what they could take out of the company.
Exactly.
not looking to what they could give and how to be a part of a team and really, want to mow the grass and put in a new hot water heater if it was
That's
necessary,
right.
right? And do the things of being an owner. It's a great metaphor for really a caring leadership style, something that really
Sure.
has more depth and more purpose behind it. So I really like that a lot. Was there a personal challenge along the way that you thought maybe kind of shaped your leadership as well? I like the fact that, you were saying if you're going to fail, fail fast. That's an interesting concept because there's a lot
Yep.
of really interesting things associated with that. First of all, it's not being afraid to fail, right?
Right.
So going out, not waiting until all of the perfect information is available because it never is. So not you need to it really talks to speed and decision making. It talks to the courage to make a decision. And then it talks to the courage to say, we made a misstep here. We need to redirect and we need to change. We need to change quickly and bring everybody on board. Is that fail fast kind of idea? Is that something that's been powerful for you as you've gone through your
It's
leadership roles?
it's something that was not innate to me. It
Mhm.
was something that I learned from others around me that
Mhm.
are mentors.
Right.
Throughout my professional career, is that early on I was afraid to fail. I would just keep going down the road
Right.
because I was driven. I'm going to change it. I'm going to be successful. Uh,
Yeah.
and you can't scale with that attitude because everything else just falls around you. And so
Right.
at some point, put your ego away, put your pride away, and
Yeah.
say you did everything that you could as long as you checked all the boxes, and you truly have,
Hmm.
and chalk it up for effort, even though the result
Right.
wasn't there, because ultimately you're tasked with the company having to succeed. No one has defined what that is. You will define that. And if it's not this avenue, it's that avenue.
Right.
So I think that that's one thing, and then another area that again you learn as you mature, I think, and as you get more
Hmm.
responsibilities. I grew up in the sales side of the business, so I kind of hung my hat on being an individual contributor, and in each of the roles that I've had, and you certainly mentioned some of those organizations. Those are very sales driven, performance oriented companies, and they look for those results at the individual level. And sales, for the most part, is an individual sport. It's not until you matriculate into sales leadership, at least for me in the beginning, it's no longer about what you do individually. It's about what the team does. And that was really my first experience into, and it was a difficult transition for me, to teach them how to fish and to coach and to mentor, because it was all about the individual numbers and the accolades and all the things that went along with
Right.
sales.
Right.
And so it took me a while, to be perfectly honest with you, to get comfortable to be, instead of selfish, to be selfless, and to teach them all of the traits and characteristics of good salespeople, of good salesmanship that I had, um,
Right.
to end up leaning in and doing that with the sales team. And I've taken that into certainly more senior level opportunities since then.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so powerful. I think it's really key to understand how to make that transition to be the beacon of kind of guidance, but not necessarily have to produce all the results for yourself. And it goes back to something you said earlier about the everything is a reflection of you and the reliability you started with. I mean, certainly leaders who you look up to are going to be the ones you can count on.
That's right.
Leaders you look up to are going to be the ones that make you proud to be following them, right? Leaders you look up to are going to be owners and not renters. They're going to be people who have a passion for you as well as for the company. So other issues in there, maybe we'll get to some of the other ones. There's a myriad of characteristics that are key there, but I think that's fantastic. I really like that way of thinking that when you made the transition, it was a key stepping stone. Well, as a part of the conversation today, Jarod, as I mentioned to you before, I really like to have the people we talk with share more about their leadership profile by exploring the key stories in their lives that really help to amplify, magnify, that real life happens, and we sometimes learn and grow through it, as you just said. And I expect that there's a number of major challenges, hurdles that you've had to get over in the businesses over the years. There's probably a few major turning points, or where you realized you had a competitive advantage and you ran out and you captured that and you had some success there. So whether it was a success or a failure, I'll leave it up to you. I mean, we let's talk about some of the stories in your career. Set one up for us, give us a little background, tell us, kind of what you saw, what you learned, and then we'll discuss that a little bit.
I think the most obvious one to me, Wayne, is what I live every day, to be perfectly honest with you. At Black Book, I tell people that the best part about working for Black Book is most people in the industry, they're familiar with Black Book. We're a 70-year-old company, we're a large brand in the automotive industry, and that's great. But they think we're a guidebook. Oh yeah, you guys have valuations.
It's
And
the little black book in the drawer of every sales manager
right
in the
here,
country,
it's
right?
right here, exactly right.
Exactly.
And we're so well branded and so well known
Right.
for that, that all the other things that we do are overshadowed by the mystique and the lore of what they know for 70 years. And to be able to reinvent the company from a printed guidebook that has been ultra successful. And listen, I mean, we all know in the age that we live in, whether it's magazines, it's newspapers, it's Road Atlas, there's all types of printed traditional publications that have gone away, that
Right.
have been able to make the transition, right?
Exactly.
We could go on forever. We have been successful, but the burden and the pressure to make that transition and then expand on it every year is not easy. And so at Black Book, what we've been doing in the last 12 and a half years, and I certainly didn't create it, but I've got the custodial rights to it now,
Right.
is that we have been working to fearlessly and feverishly really expand and evolve from that printed guidebook to a full-fledged data analytics company. And that's probably the most difficult piece of my professional journey, because there's really no roadmap for it. We have to create it ourselves. And that's where failing fast happens, and we've certainly got enough of those. But there's been more successes than failures. Today, some of the successes we have is when we really committed to a mission around what we refer to as VIN specificity. To be VIN specific. So in the valuation guide business, it's really easy to tell you what a 2017 Camry with 30,000 miles is worth. You should be doing that in your sleep these days. It is much more complex to tell you what Wayne's 2017 Camry with 30,000 miles is worth. It's very specific to the car in your driveway.
Trim level, equipment levels,
everything. You got it. It is much more advanced, much more complex. So what we had to do in order to fulfill that mission is we had to move away from a printed guidebook. We had to hire all kinds of data and analytics folks and make a huge investment. And it's risky. We didn't know if it was going to work or not.
Right.
PhDs, people with advanced degrees, machine learning, AI. All of these, advanced complexities that revolve around complex data elements in order to fulfill that. And for us, there's proprietary VIN decoding that we've created with all kinds of data from OEMs to proprietary stuff that we've got. And that's kind of step one, is in order to put a VIN specific value on that vehicle, you've got to decode that vehicle correctly. Because it's different trim packages, different content, equipment, leather, navigation, this, that, the other. They're all adjusting and worth different prices. So that's step number one, is you've got to do a VIN specific decode in order to get a VIN specific value. And we invested heavily against that in both people and data. And then second, once you've actually decoded that vehicle, right, then you've got to turn to the valuation. And we know that if Wayne and Jarod have the same 2017 Camry and we're both sitting at a red light with 30,000 miles, they're really not the same. Wayne has got one owner, no accidents, never missed an oil change. His car's perfect. whereas Jarod is the third owner. It was a rental car at some point in its former life, and it was in an accident where it was towed. They're not the same. So we incorporate today, and we're the only ones that do this, we incorporate today vehicle history. And so every time we get a 17-digit VIN passed through our API, we're decoding it correctly.
Right.
And we're running a vehicle history report, and we're adjusting the value. We call it a history adjusted value, HAV, a history adjusted value.
Interesting.
Where we adjust the value. I'm making this up, but Wayne's car, one owner, no accidents, the car is perfect, plus 500. Jared's car, two owners, two accidents, the severity of the accident was bad, negative 6,700. And then you receive this black book value back that is now precisely decoded, precisely valued, including the vehicle's VIN specific history. And that's data and analytics. And for most of our customer base, which are, we've got 3,500 lenders, we've got insurance companies, we've got marketing agencies, we've got federal government. The only ones that ever touch the collateral of all my customers is the dealer. That's it. They're the only ones that ever touch the car is the dealer. Nobody else actually touches the car that uses our data. So they are 100% reliant on, did we get the decode right? Did we incorporate the history right? And then we've got a VIN specific value. So that shift from a traditional guidebook where close enough was good enough to VIN specificity, it was huge for us, huge. And it was not easy.
Yeah, no, a lot of things come to mind there. So one of the complexities of doing this kind of thing in a business requires that you also line up all of the business processes inside your company and inside the customer journey, so that the business processes and the IT and the product vision actually lines up along the way. So as you were doing this VIN specificity, you must have had some ideas that this was going to be, that was needed. First of all, it didn't exist. Probably had a little bit of idea how difficult it was going to be to do, but maybe what was really going to be the response from the marketplace once you spent all this money and did all of this and actually proved to them how it worked. Was that a consideration you were concerned about?
So we hadn't considered it. We just thought, they want precision. Of course they'll pay for it,
Right.
And that was a second learning, by the way, the challenge we had to overcome. So specific to the history adjusted value, the traditional way of valuing vehicles, of appraising vehicles, has been around for 65, 70 years, and it was look up in the book what a 2017 Camry's worth. It's a clean, average, or rough condition. You pick.
Right.
And there you go. And close enough was good enough. And we said, we have a better way. We can decode it right. We can put the unique history against it. And we said, by the way, there's an added cost to this because we've got to buy data. We got to pay for those PhDs. We got to do all this stuff. And so now we want to charge you an extra X to do that. And they said, all of them, when given the choice, close enough is good enough. And we said, whoa, what do you mean close enough is good enough? Don't you see the value in this? And they said, no. They said, you don't understand. I spent 2 years and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I hired all these people. What do you mean if given the choice, you don't want this? So we had to huddle back. And this was a lesson learned. And it was very risky. We huddled back and we said, well, gosh, we said we have the ice cream. Do you want the sprinkles? And they said, no. What do we do? And we made a decision, and it was scary, Wayne. It was scary. We said, we're going to burn the boats. And we said, we're not going to offer Black Book without it. We are so committed to this VIN specificity that we believe that this is not good, this is better, precision, that there's no Coke and Diet Coke. There's no Black Book with and Black Book without. Starting next week, the only way we're going to serve Black Book is with this. I mean, we were committed.
Bold move.
And it was scary because we, could have gone the other way. And this was 6-7 years ago. And this was before, a lot of things that are out there today. And it turned out that when not given the choice, the brand was powerful enough, the appeal was strong enough, and we got adopters. And so today you can't get it with or without. We are committed to precision, and it comes this way.
I love that. It was a bold move. It's a risky one, obviously. Did you suffer some market share fall off during the transition period?
There were a few folks that had super tight budgets and said close enough is good enough. We can't make the
Yeah.
the ends work. And
There
we
were other sources that they could go to as well. It wasn't like in
yes,
the old days, Black Book was the only source, but now there are other sources out there.
absolutely. Yes. And so we did lose some, but we won a whole lot more than we lost. Uh,
Yep.
and it reaffirmed that our decision is right. And 6, 7 years on, we're still here doing that. And in fact, we are, uh, we have this mission around VIN specificity that we're trying to get it even tighter now by adding additional data elements
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
to really support it even more in the future.
Yeah, and I suppose as time goes on, and the online learning models and the potential of AI continues to advance. It's hard to say exactly what we'll be capable of, but the fact that you own this precision and highest level of vehicle specificity now is a really good sign that now you're establishing your brand based on that, and
That's
that
right.
you're going to be one of the leading companies in that arena. I like that as a positioning as well. You know what would have been worse? It was interesting. Because a lot of times, when you're making a decision, you want better data and you go out. Sometimes we do research, to ask the customers what they want. If you would have asked the customers before you built this what they wanted, they would have said, no, we don't need that. And you
Exactly.
might not have done it. Wouldn't that have been even more tragic?
Exactly. No, it's exactly right. It's that old Henry Ford. If I asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? And
Exactly.
with us, we were just wed to this. That
Hmm.
we created this mission around VIN specificity, and we said, what do we need to get there? When most of our customers never touch the collateral, I always tell people that I'm in the trust business.
Right.
That these people are betting billions of dollars of portfolio
Right.
on what Black Book says. The insurance company has never touched a vehicle that they insure. The
Hmm.
captive lender has never touched the vehicle that they're loaning money on.
Yeah,
We're
that's
in the
right.
trust business, and we do residual values. If
Yeah,
we're
I
a
was going to say leasing as well as,
yeah,
integrated.
yeah. I
Totally.
mean, you think
Right.
about it. If
Yeah.
if we are $500 off on our forecast 3 years and 36,000 miles from now,
Right.
and GM is relying on my data for 1 million vehicles in their
Yeah.
portfolio. Do the math. That's a
Yeah. The
big.
contingent liability they have will bury their performance in that out
That's right.
quarter. Sure.
That's right. So that's
Absolutely.
why specificity and precision is our hallmark.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, that's a tremendous learning. Now, do you see the competitive arena getting smaller, or are you getting bigger in this space because of the difficulty to do this and the work and the effort that you put in?
Yeah.
You
So
may have created a lane that actually reduces the competitors that are going to be able to come up against you.
yeah, I see a couple of different things, kind of on both sides. We initially had some folks that said, "Oh, if they can do it, we can do it," and tried, and it didn't work, and
Right.
that validated, a
Right.
lot of the complexity that we've got and things like that. But I will tell you that for all the benefits that AI will bring, AI is certainly a risk down the road to our business.
Right. Right.
If that technology can replace some of the data that we're working with, and then close enough becomes good enough again, right? So it's something we're keeping our eye on. We certainly leverage it, but it's also a potential competitive threat for us.
Right. Well, I think that's a tremendous story, and I think it's been a great series of learnings for us today to talk about it. Because honestly, I'm glad you talked about a current problem and one of the things that you've been facing over the recent years, and it will continue to be a challenge for you, because I think it's more relevant for all of us to consider, especially with technology affecting all of our businesses and all of our lives to a greater extent. And it's certainly one that you've had to step up to. I love the VIN specificity. I love the bold move. I love the rebranding of the business, that you're going to be that in essence, because it's tough. And you had a strong known brand more than anyone else. So very bold move. I like some of the principles that you've shared about reliability, and everything you do is a reflection of you and being an owner. I mean, really speaks to the integrity and the foundation that you built off of, Jarod. So I really think that's fantastic. And I think there's a number of things in the leadership profile you've developed that have been strengthened by these difficult experiences and what you've been able to accomplish. If we just to kind of begin to wrap up and looking forward, if you were going to give some advice to your younger self, like looking back when you were taking that first internship role that you really didn't even know what it was going to be about, what advice would you give your younger self now after all is said and done?
It's something that, honestly, it's something I still try to remember today, because it's useful for me today. So, if I go back, I would have developed more confidence in surrounding myself with challengers, not just people that say you're the best and you're doing great.
Hmm.
Um, Surround yourself with people that are truly looking out for you and that are stretching you, challenging you, and not afraid to give you uh, constructive criticism. The only way to learn is to know. The only way to learn and improve is to stretch, be challenged, and say, there are better ways. You're good, but your blind spots are here, and it's not just attaboys and attagirls, so to speak. It's here's where you can improve, and especially in leadership. Um, if you are the head of a company or the head of a department, that's sometimes intimidating to other people, who don't want to potentially give you bad news or give you
Right.
opportunities for improvement. And it's just, yes, sir, thank you, everything's great. Um, uh, Surround yourself with challengers that aren't afraid to push you a little bit.
Good advice. Really good advice. I think it's people like you and others in leadership roles who have changed the dynamic of leadership over time. It seems to me that I remember in the early days of my career, it seemed like one attaboy wasn't good enough. You get 20 attaboys and then one aw crap canceled them all.
Oh yeah, believe me.
It was a culture
Yes,
where failure was not welcomed at all
that's right.
and bad
That's right.
news never needed to be communicated out. I think there were a lot of problems with that. We could talk about that for a long time, but now this idea that it's okay to fail, to be open, communicate widely, let everyone, kind of weigh in, but then be willing to redirect, be willing to let the circumstances dictate a better solution. And
That's right.
certainly you guys have benefited from it. So I think that's great advice for younger self. If you and I were sitting in the woods at a beautiful cabin with a sunset and a glass of our favorite beverage, talking about our careers and talking about, the value that we may have left behind. Okay, if it's 20 years from now, I'd be really old, but let's imagine we're still there and we're having this conversation. What would you be most proud of?
I think, if you would ask me this question 20 years ago, it would be a different answer. But today, as I've matured, it is the legacy of the people that I've been able to influence, and the most satisfaction that I get is watching others increase their professional opportunities, and watching them matriculate into something more, and having played a very very small role. The first thing that I do is I give them an opportunity, but that's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's also part of leaders to lean in, invest, influence, guide, empower, and coach them along the way. And the satisfaction at this point is coming, identifying the next Jarod, right, or
Right,
identifying
right.
the next folks that in whatever skill set that they're in. That gives me the most satisfaction.
That's a very, very, very well informed answer, and I think the more I speak with senior executives who have kind of fought their way to the top of the heap in whatever profession they're in, they realize that it's the lives we touch along the way that really makes the difference, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And as a business coach, I go in and I always realize that the people I'm going to be speaking with are people who know more about their business than I do, and that where I really have found I can add value is in the relationships with the people, the coaching, the perspective, the strategic alignment, and those types of things in companies is really what's needed. And it's leaders like yourself and others who realize that every day and guide their organizations to great success. So, it's been a tremendous opportunity to talk with you and have this conversation. Jarod, I think the others who may watch this podcast will feel the same way. So thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to staying in touch going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for being with us. If you like our conversations, please feel free to hit the subscribe and like buttons. And if you'd like to make comments, ask questions, or even explore being a guest on this program, you can reach out to us via email. It's wayne@greatroad.com. That's WAYNE at GR8ROAD.com. And until next time, always remember, the high road leads to a better place.